Welcome back to another video. This is going to be in an ideal world, this isn't as long as as I think it's going to be, but it probably is. Today, I'm going to be ranking every singular video game that I played in 2025. Every game that I beat, because there's some games that didn't make this list just because I hadn't beaten them, or I hadn't put enough time into them. Like Ball Pit, I didn't get to put as much time into that game as I would have liked, as much as I love it. But yeah, this is going to be a long list. There are 52 games here. I had a very not eventful 2025. Uh, Job hunting did not go well at all, and some other things happened. So I had way more free time than I would like to admit. So yeah, we're gonna be counting 52 individual video games. It's gonna take a while. I'm gonna try and keep it as short as I possibly can. Let's get started. Before we get to the main list, though, I do want to cover two games. These are two games that I dropped, that I put a significant amount of time into. Um, just for I dropped them for a variety of reasons. So two games are Suikoden 2 and Tales of Symphonia. Both games that are very much beloved by their own fan bases, that as well as, or at least the fan bases of these franchises, but as well as the JRPG community in general. I did not enjoy either of these two games, and I was genuinely upset playing them because I was like, I'm not having fun right now. Suikoden 2, I think I got about 25 to 30 hours in, and I was like, I'm not having fun with this. I'm not enjoying myself. This is becoming kind of a chore. The same thing with Symphonia, but Symphonia was a little bit less. Symphonia, I think I got about 20 hours in. I was like, I'm just not enjoying myself. And I know the whole thing about Symphonia is it has a slow start or whatnot, but ultimately I was like, this doesn't interest me in any way, shape, or form, which is crazy because there's another Tales of game that I played this year that I think has a little bit of a worse reputation in regards than Symphonia, but I genuinely enjoyed that game much more than Symphonia. And so yeah, these are two games that I do eventually plan on coming back to, just because with, because of how beloved they are. I do want to see what the big deal is, but grand scheme of things, I just did not have the time or the patience to beat these games. And that being said, let's get into the actual list now. Number 52, Forspoken. I'm going to try and keep these short so I don't kill my throat in the process. Forspoken is a game that I think is fine. It is I think is not as bad as people make it out to be. I think a lot of that has to do with the visuals and gameplay carry this game for me. Forspoken's gameplay is so fun. It is such a fun game to play. Um, the different abilities and how level design works with traversal. All of that is extremely fun to use and mess around with and experiment with. It is. The problem is everything else about the game is not great, right? I don't remember the music all that well. I think the story is not good, and the characters are also not rememberable in any way, shape, or form. And this guy been beaten to death. The dialogue isn't great, and then the dialogue actively brings the characters down. So ultimately, it doesn't work. Like, if you want to do a story, if you want to tell a good compelling story, you have to make sure that you make your dialogue. I mean, the best way to say it is good. I've written stories myself where if the dialogue isn't good, the story just kind of falls apart. It's stiff. It's robotic. It sucks to read, all things considered. And this is this is one of those cases. So I think if the game had better dialogue and a better story, it would be really good. But it doesn't. So it's going down here. Still a fun game to play though. Trials of Mana was a game that I was expecting to be much better than it was. I went into Trials of Mana with high expectations, and ultimately I came out kind of disappointed. This is the very definition of like a '90s RPG that ultimately got remade, and you could definitely feel it, but not. I don't think in the positive ways that '90s RPGs normally are. Once again, this is a game that is fun to play. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's a fun game, all things considered. It is good. I wouldn't call it bad in any sense of the word. Just a little bit disappointed, especially compared to like other '90s RPGs that have been remade. You can see the charm of the time in those RPGs, such as like Star Ocean Second Story R, but I think those are executed a little bit better than Trials of Mana, all things considered. Still a good game, still fun to play. Just disappointed by a lot of the stuff that is in this game. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. This is a game that I started, I think 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. I never beat it. I got back to it, and I never grew up with Ratchet & Clank. I didn't grow up with PlayStation or anything. I didn't. My first PlayStation console was when I bought my PS5 in would have been late 2022 at this point. So, I don't have memories with PlayStation. This game is fun. It is fun. Relatively simple and interesting story that I did enjoy, but ultimately just does not stack up or hold a candle to the rest of the games on this list, in my opinion. I'm not sure if I should count this game on this list. I'm going to be completely honest. But I put it here anyway just because I did technically beat it. That's Bright Memory Infinite. This game is like 2 to 3 hours long. There's a 2 to 3 hour long tech demo at the end of the day. I wanted to include it just because I didn't want to leave any stones unturned. Game's fun. It was a fun time. I played it on Steam Deck. It was a very fun time. I really enjoyed it. Wouldn't say it's mind blowing in any way, shape, or form, but it is a fun game to play. Fun combat, fun boss fights, all things considered. 48 Rise Son of Rome. Another case of doesn't do much, that blows me away, but I still had a very fun time with it. Playing as gladiators and just in general, these warriors, playing these warriors in general is just fun. It is a great time to be had in literally any situation. The brutality and combat was a little bit confusing, but it's still very, very fun. It's a very nice looking game. Overall, if you just want to sit back, have a fun time, whether you care about story or not, sit back, have a fun time, you will enjoy this game. I would recommend it. Oh boy, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think this game is... I've gone on the record to say that this is my least favorite Xenoblade game. I've said it in the past. I've been saying it for years now. And I still stand by it. I definitely think I enjoyed it on a replay more than I did a couple of years ago. I definitely now see a little bit more of the redeeming qualities. But ultimately, I still don't think this game is... I won't say it is a good game, I would say now. But ultimately, I don't think this game reaches the highs that the rest of the franchise reaches. I think this... I think what kind of does it... What kind of makes me feel that way is the characters. I don't really... A lot of people love the Xenoblade 2 characters. I don't really care for them. They never really stood out to me. Like, obviously, there's Rex and Pyra, and then there's Nia. And I think it does help that there is a relative lack of characters, or there's a smaller cast of characters compared to other Xenoblade games. But even then, I feel like the characters in this game aren't as memorable in what they go through. In what they go through during the entirety of the game compared to, like, a Xenoblade 1 or a Xenoblade 3 in that regard. I think the combat of the game is fun. It's fun. The tutorials still suck. The tutorials are still trash, but the combat is fun, but it definitely has its issues here and there, which they addressed in Torna, which I'm actually currently playing right now for the first time. I'm playing Torna for the first time. I'm actually really enjoying that game. So yeah, ultimately, I think Xenoblade 2 is just a case of a game that should be great, didn't really live up to that expectation for me of it should be great, but it didn't do too much for me. The music's still phenomenal. It's still a phenomenal looking game, but it's a game that I still think is a little bit lower than the rest of the Xenoblade games. Suikoden, another JRPG classic that everybody loves. I wasn't feeling this game for a little while, and then I think the second half of the game happened, and I really started to enjoy myself. Ultimately, I don't think that this game does anything, outside of the massive cast of characters, which I think is probably my issue with Suikoden 2. It doesn't do anything for me. that, makes me like, yeah, man, this is amazing. But you get to the second half of the game, and I think that um, it definitely improves. The storytelling becomes a little bit more tighter, a little bit more not followable, but like concise. Yeah, I understand what's going on. I understand why this is happening, and it is relatively interesting in some way, shape, or form. So I still would recommend to play Suikoden. Just don't go into it, or Suikoden 2 for that matter, which is probably my mistake, thinking that this is going to be the greatest games, going to be one of the greatest games ever made. It's a fun time overall. Mega Man 11. This is my first time playing a Mega Man game. I like to think that uh, manifested Mega Man 12 into existence because I played this game this year, but it's whatever. This is my first time playing and beating a Mega Man game, and overall it was short. It was definitely short, but I had a fun time. Um, Platforming, bosses, just everything about it was fun. I'm not a big platformer person. I've been trying to change that as of recent. I've been trying to get into different genres, which is kind of what 2025 has been about for me, getting into these different genres. But Mega Man 11 overall, just a very fun time, and that's what you're going to see with this list. If I rate things off of how much fun I'm having, I'm very easy to please in that regard. Obviously, I take things like story, characters, combat, whatnot into account, but replayability and fun is always at the top of my mind when I'm ranking these games. So yeah, very easy to satisfy in that regard. So a lot of these games are going to be have a higher rating. Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance, definitely I wouldn't say my least favorite Kingdom Hearts game that I've played, but it's definitely not as good as the others. Still really good. Um, in usual Kingdom Hearts fashion, the story at times can be kind of incomprehensible, or rather a tad bit confusing. I'm saying this as an individual that has played all the games. Um, it's a little weird, but ultimately it's Kingdom Hearts. You're still going to enjoy it if you like Kingdom Hearts. Um, it's a game in which that I think is probably one of my favorites to play outside of Kingdom Hearts 3 and 2. This is probably my favorite Kingdom Hearts game to just sit down and play. It is a very fun time, gameplay wise, and I would still, and I still think about it. It does a variety of different things that have been, introduced into later games of the series that I really enjoy, and I'm actually excited to do a replay of this game at some point. Xenoblade X Definitive Edition is probably the most upset or most angry I've been while playing a video game, and I still think this game is great. But oh my goodness, this game is there's a lot. There's a lot to do in this game, and for better or for worse, I think ultimately there might be a little too much to do, and the game is difficult. The game is difficult at that. There might be a little too much to do, and I think that kind of hindered my experience a bit because by the end of it, I was like, man, I have a headache. I'm annoyed. I want to finish this game. And I still think the game was. I still had an overall fun time with it. But by the end, when I was like, I'm not enjoying myself. I want to finish this game. I think that's kind of what brought it down to an 8.5 for me. I never even completed the epilogue because of that. Which I should go back and do at some point. But yeah, Xenoblade X. I still think it's really good. I think if you pace yourself and don't try and complete it all within a certain amount of time, or you don't play it every day, you will enjoy it. But for me specifically, that's what I did, and I kind of walked away upset, but still glad that I did play this game ultimately. Live Alive. I have some complicated feelings about this game. I think overall the game is great. And I think there are some routes that are really good, but some routes that kind of lacking in a sense. I love how everything ties together. That was my biggest issue with Octopath Traveler, why I didn't complete it. I played a bit of Octopath 2, and I did enjoy myself. I just never got around to beating it. My biggest issue with Octopath Traveler was I hated how these routes kind of had nothing to do with each other. And I'm pretty sure that probably gets better in 2. But I hate how these routes had nothing to do with each other. Whereas with Live Alive, because they're so split up, you kind of assume that they're all going to kind of gather together at the end for one boss fight, and they do, and it is fun. It is a fun time overall. some of the combat scenarios or some of the gameplay scenarios weren't as fun to me. This like alien spaceship thing, that was horrifying. But yeah, I think it's a very good remake of a '90s RPG that was definitely overlooked for the longest time. And I would highly recommend playing it because it is still really fun, despite how insanely stupid and tough that final boss was. Anyways, number 41, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Kind of falls into the same place as like Xenoblade X, where I was enjoying myself, but the longer that this game went on, the less fun I was having. I feel like I powered through this game. It was like 50 hours. Ultimately, I don't think it took. It ended up being it wasn't all too long, all things considered, but um I would not recommend trying to do everything that you possibly can in a first playthrough. It's kind of the same way how I feel about Xenoblade X and Suikoden. Don't do everything that you can. Don't try 100% in your first playthrough. I think that's kind of where um, things drop back for me. Otherwise, the story is good. The characters are. I won't say the characters are good because there really isn't that much when it comes to characters. Um, Music is phenomenal as usual. Traversing the overworld is very fun, and overall, I still think Dragon Quest III is an amazing game. Just I've only had this is my second experience with a Dragon Quest game right behind 11, and so that was my only thing I could really compare it to, and I don't think it stacks up to 11 in that regard, but still really really fun. Lost Judgment is up next, and I hesitated putting uh, getting into Lost Judgment this year just because when I played Judgment a couple of years back on my second channel, I didn't enjoy myself. I wasn't having fun. I thought Judgment wasn't great, and I played Lost Judgment, and I really had a lot of fun. And the mystery, for me at least, was more compelling. Some of the side content was a little bit but the mystery, the character and combat, everything was more compelling to me. Everything worked better for me, and overall, I just had a lot more fun with Judgment. I mean, with Lost Judgment than I did Judgment, which I'm very glad. So I am glad that I got around to finally playing this game. Next up, we have Mario Kart World. This this game is interesting because I don't know if I can properly judge it based off of what's happening now. Because I've heard a few things about Mario Kart World now. I just haven't played it in a little bit. For starters, I put about 25 hours into it. This is all within the first 2 months or so. And from what I played specifically me, and when I played it, I really enjoyed Mario Kart World. Um, I had more fun with it than I personally did Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8, I don't know what it was about that game. It was kind of never. I still think that game was really good. It's probably objectively better than World. But I don't know, personally speaking, when it comes to like race mechanics and how the game felt to play, I personally enjoyed Mario Kart um, World more than I did Mario Kart 8. That's not to say that Mario Kart World doesn't have its issues at all. Of course it does, of course it does. But personally speaking, I prefer World to 8. I had a lot of fun playing this game, and it's always a fun time to hop back on and play whenever I get the chance to. Resident Evil 3 is a game that I know is not perfect, all things considered. I know that there's a lot of cut content from this game, a lot of things that should probably be in the remake that aren't. But all things considered, my only experience with Resident Evil 3, I enjoyed it a lot. I had fun. It's short, and you can definitely tell that there are things missing, but I don't think it's a bad game by any means. I think it's a overall just a fun time. As I said, I rate a lot of my stuff on how much fun I'm having, and I was having a lot of fun playing RE3, issues aside. I replayed The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel this year, as I do at this point. I just kind of replay at least one of these Trails games every year. In the case of this year, I replayed 3 of them, 4 of them, sorry. But I replayed The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel this year, and I think I upped the rating a little bit because I found myself enjoying the game a bit more. I think once you kind of get past like once after a little while, once you have adapted to combat and whatnot, it plays really well as a very fun turn-based RPG. As well as I think this is probably one of the better paced Trails stories. Trails, I feel like, as a franchise, there's a variety of games in which there's like certain points that are paced very weirdly. Cold Steel 2 and Cold Steel 3 are one of those games, or a couple of those games. Daybreak 2. I said Cold Steel 2 and Cold Steel 4. I don't know if I can't remember if I say 3 or not. But Daybreak 2 is another one of those games. Azure, as much as I love that game, I think Azure is phenomenal. Same thing with Daybreak 2. I love Daybreak 2. Azure is another one of those games that's kind of paced weirdly. And I think this is. So, Cold Steel 1 is one of the better paced stories in the franchise. The twist was very obvious, but still, still kind of surprising. And then it still made me emotional, you know? The first time I played Cold Steel 1, I was so sad and so upset by the end of the game, and I still feel that after this is my third time playing it. I still feel that. Yeah, I love Cold Steel 1. It's a game that got me into the franchise, and ultimately, no matter what anybody says, whether it be the game's not good or it's not a good starting point, whatever, ultimately, I still love it. So, replayed Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, and this game is still as good as I remember. It's definitely there's some spots that just because of the nature of this video game haven't aged all too well, but ultimately I think this is a really good remake of a video game. What is that, PSP, PS Vita game, whatever it was. Love how it leads into Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy and whatnot. Everything that you love about Crisis Core, I love about Final Fantasy VII is here. And there's not really much else I can say about it because this game's been out for years, but relatively good game. Go play it. I have the same thoughts about Tales of Graces F Remastered that I do about the next game, and I'll get to that in a second. Graces F Remastered, I started playing this on the heels of me dropping Tales of Symphonia. And I was like, okay, surely this game can captivate me a bit more. And it did, right? I love the cast of characters. Genuinely, the cast of characters, maybe not Pascal, but genuinely the cast of characters in this game were all funny, enjoyable, lovable, had some sort of depth to them. I really enjoyed that. And it plays really well. It is a very fun game to play gameplay wise. It's a nice looking game as well because it's a remaster, but it's extremely fun and satisfying and rewarding to master certain combos and combo routes and certain things and titles and whatnot. It's all very interesting. The one thing about Graces F that kind of brings it down for me is what I'm going to talk about with the next game. Is the story is fine. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It's just okay. It's there. I think the first couple of chapters of that game's story are really good and do a really good job at setting up what could possibly happen. And the last couple of chapters are a little bit weird. They're fine. They're not bad by any means, but ultimately, they aren't, world beaters. Let's just say I have not finished the epilogue, the extra story. I'm in the middle of it, but I have not finished it just yet. So maybe that'll change when I finish that. But ultimately, if we're talking about main game specifically, I still feel that way. It's the exact same way how I feel about East 10 Nordics. This is my first time beating an East game. I own East 8. I bought East 8 way more like a year or so before I bought Trails. I never beat it, but I decided to finally get around to beating one of these, which was East 10. And it's exactly how I feel about Graces F. I think the cast of characters is great. I think the combat and actually playing the game is so much fun. The story is okay, and the difference between that is that I'm well aware that East isn't, focused heavily on the story. You know, if you want a Falcom game with in-depth story, a really amazing story, you go play Trails, right? You don't play East. You play East for gameplay, as far as I'm aware. Um, and and so in that regard, if you go in with that mindset, obviously you're gonna love it, and it's great. It's a very fun game. I had a very fun time playing it. I just do wish that maybe Falcom just put a tiny bit more effort into the story. And I think they definitely did that with this, like putting more effort into the story than what they did with previous East games. But even just a little bit more to make it, just a bit more enjoyable for me. Just for me personally, I'm always a story first person, but um, overall, the game's still fun. I would still highly recommend it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I started replaying Stardew Valley earlier this year, and I think I got maybe about 30 hours in before I stopped. Game's great. Game's always been great. It's been great for years. Just a very fun, cozy, comfy game to play when you just don't want stress. Always a fun time returning to this game whenever I can. I have no clue what in the world that noise is, and I'm not sure I want to know what that noise is. Next up, Mafia Definitive Edition. Mafia Definitive Edition is the first time I've played a Mafia game, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the story was pretty good. I thought the gameplay was also pretty good. Driving wasn't fun, but overall, I think this game was just a pleasant surprise for me. I genuinely enjoyed it. It was a little bit of kind of maybe a little bit emotional at the end. The ending of that game was wild, and it kind of made me interested in playing more of these types of games. As I said, 2025 for me was about playing the games that I like still, but also trying to branch into new genres, and one of those or branch into new places, and one of those places was Mafia. All right, next up, I think we're getting close to like the slew of 2025 games that released. Monster Hunter Wilds, I enjoyed. I've never been the biggest Monster Hunter person. I enjoyed what I played of World. I enjoyed what I played of Rise, right? But Monster Hunter Wilds, ultimately for me, I think was good. And I think this is kind of what I've heard echoed in the Monster Hunter community. It's good. It could be better. And I'm looking at this rating now, and it's probably actually a little bit lower than that. I probably actually have to drop that a few spots. I had a lot of fun, but I think it could have been better. This rating is inaccurate for sure. None of my ratings are consistent. I'm not a consistent person when it comes to this stuff. So just gonna move on. A fun game. I hope they do improve it going forward. Yeah, so we're definitely going to get into a slew of 2025 games. Trails to Daybreak 2 is technically also a replay. I've talked about this game at length on my channel, but the long and short of it is I don't hate this game as much as a lot of other Trails fans do. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, Act 3 is kind of weird. Act 3 is kind of weird. It's slow, but as I say, I still really enjoyed myself. I had more fun with this game than I did Daybreak 1. I would personally choose to replay this game over Daybreak 1. Obviously, everything you want in a Daybreak game is there. There's great combat, I say great characters. It's actually probably my least favorite cast of characters in the Trail series, but still pretty good characters. And it does, I think, a good job at leaning into Trails Beyond the Horizon, which, as I'm recording this, comes out in about 2 weeks. That'll be very fun. Yeah. 29, Pokemon Legends ZA. I was pleasantly surprised by this game. I had a lot of fun with it. I played Legends Arceus a couple years ago, and I played Pokemon Violet. And Pokemon Violet I thought was fun, but it had its issues. I think Legends Arceus was really good. ZA ended up being so much fun to play. I loved the ZA Royale system. I loved Mega Evolutions, the side quests. The story was pretty good for a Pokemon game. It's pretty good, and overall, I have no issue with the fact that I spent a lot of money on this game. You play some games and you're like, man, I wish I hadn't spent this money on this amount of money on this game. I have no issue with spending that money on Legends ZA. Genuinely, it was very fun. It was a very fun video game. And if this is an indicator of where Pokemon is to go in the future, I'm about it. Okay, that's not true. This game needs voice acting. It desperately needs voice acting. Yeah. All right. Next, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was the first time I played a Ninja Gaiden game. That's not true. No, I played the first one, and this game was great. It's fun. It's like I guess to kind of we can kind of skip forward as well. The next game is Ninja Gaiden 4. These games are fun. They're not story heavy at all. Some games you have to adjust your mindset going into it. I as much as like I said, I'm a story first person. I love story, but I also do like just having fun with a video game. A video game that is insane, and that's what these two games are. They're just insane to play video games, and I love it. I think they're great. I would want to play them again. They're like kind of in that category is like Metal Gear Rising or Devil May Cry for me, where I feel like I could kind of pick this game up at any point in time and play it again and still have a fun time. So, I talked about this in my video from yesterday. Avowed is a game that I think does a lot of things really well, and some things are fine. I enjoyed combat. I enjoyed the world, the art style. Everything looks great. However, the story I think is just fine. It's simple. It's to the point. It knows what it's trying to do, and it doesn't. It's not trying to blow you away. It's just trying to tell a nice, not nice, but like a story, and it is good. It's good at doing that. I don't really understand the hate that this game gets because this game kind of gets some hate. I had a lot of fun with this. I had more fun with this than the little that I played at Outer Worlds, and I once again another game that I'm very excited to replay at some point. Another one that I touched on in that video, I think every new for 2025 game going forward, I have touched on in that video that I made yesterday. But Donkey Kong Bonanza, to the long and short of it, it's fun. It's a fun video game. I think the gameplay loop kind of becomes a little bit monotonous towards the latter half of the game. But it is a fun time with Donkey Kong and Pauline. It is a fun time to smash around as Donkey Kong, destroy stuff, and ultimately it is just a great. It's a fun game. The bosses at the end were great. The music was really good, and another one where I am, despite how I kind of feel about it in some places, another one that I'm not really mad that I spent my money on. Next up, yet another new for 2025 video game, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Now this, I said in my other video, this game has been has been a source of a bit of controversy recently, and so I want to say that I, as the rating suggests, really enjoyed myself with this game. One of the biggest things that I've heard about this game is Soul Valley in the desert. It's bad. Yeah, objectively, it is. It's not good. But a lot of the things that are in this game, whether it be the NPCs, those don't bother me that much. I'm obviously not like a diehard Metroid fan. I enjoy this series, but I'm not a diehard. So the NPCs didn't bother me. The hidden system didn't bother me. That's because I'm stupid and can't solve a puzzle to save my life. So that was made for me specifically. And even with the desert, which it still is bad, but I don't think it's as bad as everybody says it is. The desert and everything. The biggest thing about Metroid Prime 4 was I had fun exploring. I had fun doing all this stuff. I had fun 100% in the game, which I did. It was a good time. Just overall, I had so much fun. There was never really a moment where I was like, this is not fun. I'm not enjoying myself, even with the desert and all. It was never like that for me, at least. That's just my experience with it. So, yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is great. It is a good game. I don't care what anybody says. And yeah, go play it. Kingdom Hearts 3 is another game that's very controversial for a lot of reasons, and I'll just say this to try and keep it short. Also, with like Metroid Prime 4, this game has its issues, but ultimately, I enjoyed my time. Some of the worlds kind of suck. They do. The Frozen World, I hate it with a burning passion. I hate it so much. Hate that Frozen World with every fiber in my being. But I did enjoy where the story went. I did enjoy what the characters did, and overall, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a game that I don't really understand the hate for, all things considered. Like I said, there are some glaring issues. There are definitely some issues in there, but none of them were big enough to hinder my experience with the game. This is a recent one. I played Alan Wake Remastered for the first time. I have Alan Wake 2 sitting over there. I'm going to get to that within the next month or so. Just like another game that's on this list, a game that is about a writer, I can obviously relate to. And so I'm sitting here, I'm playing this game, I'm like, man, if I were in this situation, I would die. I don't know, man. If I were in my own writing, if I was in the stories that I'm creating, I would die. And I think that's what I loved about this game. The story was interesting and captivating in a sense. The gameplay isn't great, and that's just because this is a game from 2010 of all things, right? Of all years. So the gameplay isn't the greatest, but it's still very fun. It's a bit clunky, but it's enjoyable. It is a fun game to play. I won't say it's that scary, and it is more atmospheric horror. And even then, the atmosphere isn't the scariest thing in the world. I'm curious to see how that changes at Alan Wake 2. But overall, I genuinely had a ball with this game. I didn't want to put it down. We were kind of getting close to the end. I was like, I don't want this to end. It was just that good to me. I really, really enjoyed it. All things considered. Trails in the Sky. Hi. All right. So, naturally, I've mentioned this already. I'm a big Trails fan. I love Trails. Trails in the Sky, for me, took what I think is the weakest story or the weakest game in the Trails franchise, being the first Trails game, and made it even better. Improved on its story, improved on the characters. Just the combat is amazing. It is, I think, the best JRPG remake we've ever gotten, like one-to-one remake. I'm not sure if I would consider Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth as remakes more than as opposed to sequels, and we'll talk about one of those later. I'm not sure if I would consider those a part of that category. So, all things considered, ultimately, I think this is the best one-to-one JRPG remake that we've gotten. And so, because I do believe that this is the weakest Trails game story-wise, or the original was, and it made it better, all things considered, taking, Trails Beyond the Horizon or Kaino Kiseki's combat, mixing it with gorgeous visuals and new new aspects that they've learned over the years making Trails. Taking all that into account, I'm so excited for Sky SC, because Sky SC, I think, is a top 3 Trails game for me. And so if they can do what they did, if they can do to that game what they did with this game, I will be so happy. I'd be so happy. Batman Arkham Knight. I think I've played half of this game before this year, but I never beat it. I obviously knew about the whole Arkham Knight twist. It's not a big thing to me. I'm a DC fan. I knew. I think this game, out of the 3 that I've played, because I haven't played Origins yet, out of the 3 that I've played, spoiler, this is probably the weakest one for me. And I really did enjoy it. I still think the game is really, really good. I just think the story at the very least isn't as good as Arkham Asylum or Arkham City. Not saying that it isn't good, I'm just saying it isn't as good. Visuals for a 2015 game, oh my goodness, it's probably one of the best looking games ever made. It plays phenomenally, probably the best playing Arkham game. Just all things considered, the story is just not as good as Asylum and City. Speaking of which, Arkham Asylum, I played this for the first time. It's the first time I actually played Arkham Asylum. Everything that I said about Arkham City Arkham Knight applies to Asylum, but the story is better in this game. I think the story is much, much better. Just dealing with the Asylum, dealing with the villains, I think is a lot of fun. And one thing that I loved about this game that I hated about when we got to City and Night specifically, how we kind of lost the comic book aesthetic. this game has, like, the UI and the menus and whatnot have that comic book like aesthetic that make it feel like you're playing in a living comic book, and I love that. I love that. I'm so upset that they ditched that going on, going into the future. That makes me upset more than anything else about the series. But yeah, no, Arkham Asylum is a phenomenal game that I would I cannot I would recommend. I couldn't recommend enough. Split Fiction, kind of same case of Alan Wake 2, where as a writer, if I were transported into these worlds, I would die. Um, I related heavily to a lot of the to our two characters. I think Zoe and Mio, where I'm like, or I'm not really. I won't say I'm not really confident in my work, but there's a variety of ideas that I had that I have kind of shut to the past, and so, or have kind of trapped away, and so seeing a lot of ideas come to life, the struggles of being a writer, the struggles of um, working with other people in a sense, and being exploited, the ideas of in the future these bad things could happen to writing as a just as a whole, just resonated with me a lot. Um, it was what made Split Fiction such a good game. It's also fun to play. It's just a fun game to play with friends. Final Fantasy X is a game that I think is, and I say this with staring right at that 9 out of 10, I think it's slightly overrated. Just slightly. One thing about Final Fantasy X for me is that it's kind of the same case with Xenoblade 2, where not all of the characters did it for me, but I think overall, unlike Xenoblade 2, I think the game overall is amazing, phenomenal, peak even. Is just really good. I just think some of this difficulty aside, the characters kind of bring it down for me. I don't think it hits the same as some other games in the franchise, let alone JRPGs as well. I think it has some great music, really good visuals for what it is, um, good story, good combat. Just the characters don't do it for me, all things considered. Mario Odyssey was a joy. This game was so much fun. I played this right after playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. I played this for the first time after 8 years of putting it off, and I had so much fun. There was something about this game to me that was just magical. There's something about this game that made me smile ear to ear, and yeah, this game was just, it was a joy going through all the different worlds. This game looks great, going through all the different worlds, tackling different bosses, exploring as Mario, the music. It was one of those experiences that I wish I had had when I was younger, because it's such a magical experience. It's an experience that I think everybody should have. This is an all timer. Um, I think the biggest thing for me going against this game is that some of the worlds don't hit as well as the others, as well as game's short. I wish it was just a tad bit longer, but overall, I still think it's amazing. Doom: The Dark Ages. I have gone on record to say this. I enjoyed this game more than Eternal. I did. I did. I really did. Um, I just think the added heaviness of Doom Guy and the shield combat, dragon, mech stuff, and not implemented it, executed the greatest dragon and mech stuff. Just I don't know, created a experience for me that was overall, I overall had more fun during this. Whereas there are certain points in Eternal, for me at least, this is just my opinion, where I was kind of a tad bit bored. I was never bored while playing Doom: The Dark Ages, and I love it for that. Ghost of Yotei. Yeah, I'm going. I feel like I'm repeating. I'm repeating topics because I already talked about these games already at length. Ghost of Yotei, I think, is a game that is great. It's better than Tsushima, in my opinion. The story, I think, is better, a bit concise. I don't know if I actually said that in this. I don't remember. I don't remember. Oh my goodness, it's been a little bit. The gameplay is phenomenal. Side characters are not as good, in my opinion, but I love Atsu. I love the visuals. I love the world. It is a really good Tsushima follow up. that I think that exceeds Tsushima in most ways. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. Oh my goodness, we're going back through everything that list. Um, my first time playing this game, I think that this game is amazing. I understand why people love it so much now. It's one of those games that you can't help but loving, right? It's one of those games that I think deserves its reputation. The turn-based combat is awesome. The story, well, there are some things of the story that I wasn't the biggest fan of. The story is, for the most part, like 80%, 85% of it is outstanding. The voice acting and characters are awesome. It's just great voice acting, and I genuinely loved everything that happened. Like, or not everything that happened, but like genuinely loved everything about this game, minus like a couple of little things. I would highly recommend playing this game, and I really wish that they brought it back sooner, because I in a year in which there are so many good games that came out, or so many good games that I played, this could have been higher, and it's just not. Metroid Prime Remastered, finally a game that I have not played before, that I have not talked about yet. Prime Remastered, I ended up having so much fun with this game. It's probably the game. If it weren't for this game, I probably wouldn't have ended up playing Metroid Prime 4. I loved the exploration. The story was pretty good. This game gave me a feeling that I hadn't really felt before. I'm not really sure how to describe that feeling, but it made me feel different in regards to playing video games, and I loved that feeling. It was a great feeling. Um, and I don't know what other game I would have to play to get that feeling back, that feeling of exploration, being alone, deserted, having to actively fight for your life in this setting, translating 2D Metroid to 3D Metroid. It was fun. It was a fun feeling. And uh, one of those games that I cannot wait to go back to and try and attempt to 100% it. All right, before we go, last game before the top 10, Dispatch, another game that I've also talked about at length. Um, Dispatch is great. I love superhero stories in general. I'm a big comic book nerd. I always have been. I always will be. Um, and so to see that translated into a Telltale type game with all these great voice performances, great characters, great writing, great visuals, great gameplay. I think just most of everything about Dispatch works, and I cannot recommend this game enough. Ad hoc, whatever you make in the future, I will play, whether it be Dispatch Season 2 or that Critical Role game, Project Exandria. I will be there day one. You don't gotta worry about me. I will give you my money. Finally, in the top 10, number 10, we have Nier Automata. Like most people who have, just most people who are in this sphere of gaming, we've all heard of Nier Automata. I've given this shot. I've given this game a shot on two separate occasions before now, and both of them I didn't beat it. This year, I finally got around to beating it on my third attempt of trying to play this game, and I really enjoyed it. It was very existential. It made me think a lot. I don't. I'm not overly in love with how all the ideas are executed, but the ideas are still executed really well. The game was much different than I thought it would be, especially from a story perspective. Switching back and forth between characters or between routes, and especially things that happen after, at the end of Route B or Act B, whatever. It was a very interesting game. It's a game that I enjoyed a ton, and I'm finally glad I got around to this game, because while I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, I wouldn't call it my favorite game of all time by any means. It's still a phenomenal video game that ultimately I would highly recommend, because Yoko Taro had me questioning my existence at 11 a.m. in the morning. So yeah. The Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure is a game that I replayed this year, another replay, and I love this game. It reminded me that I don't know where I'd be as a writer or as a person if it weren't for this series. Trails kind of pulled me out of a very dark time in my life. Um, it's my favorite, my fourth favorite Trails game, all things considered. I don't know why I keep saying that, but it Azure's the reason why it's not a 10 out of 10 and it's like a 9.5 is because Azure has a variety of like little tiny little things, like tiny little nitpicks that I'm not the biggest fan of, whether it be some character story decisions or the pacing of the game being really weird at times. But overall, I think Azure is a phenomenal video game, despite my not middling, but like, I have very complicated feelings regarding the Crossbell arc as a whole. I think Azure does a really good job at concluding, in quotation marks, concluding that arc, and being a really good game just on top of it. It's not just like, the ending is good, that's about it. It's just a really good game on top of it. So good, in fact, that Reverie copied a variety of plot points from this game specifically, and doesn't do it as well in my opinion, which is why I'm not, in love with Reverie like a lot of people are. But yeah, Azure's great. It's phenomenal. I love it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game that I've had to kind of go back and forth on in my mind of what I like and what I don't like about it. I love the story. I do. Even the changes that are made, I really enjoy. It's something new, something different from from the original game, which I did play. I have played OG Final Fantasy VII. I have to point that out. Something different from the original game, which I love. But at the same time, there are certain things that I don't like. I'm not the biggest fan of and I understand why it's there, the wide open areas and the Ubisoft style objectives on the map. I'm not the biggest fan of that. It doesn't bother me. It's a little bit tedious to go through at times. The mini games suck. That's not true. Some of the mini games are cool. Some of the mini games suck, especially, and then the side content as well. Especially when you get into the back half of the game, like chapter 12, whatever chapter it was, the last chapter or the second to last chapter, whatever chapter it was, where everything opens up. It's not ideal by any means, but the things that this game does really well, it does really well. And if you liked Final Fantasy VII Remake, you'll love Rebirth, just like I love Rebirth. Batman Arkham City, for my money, I think is the greatest superhero comic book video game ever created. I firmly believe this. I think it takes everything that Arkham Asylum did, as well as building upon it, adding more of the Batman mythos to it, making gameplay just that much better. Being able to fly and glide around Arkham City as a whole. Adding on like a better, in my opinion, a better story. I think this game is genuinely perfect. I don't think there's anything wrong with this video game. It's awesome. Boss fights are awesome. That Mr. Freeze boss fight was great. All boss fights are phenomenal. And I don't think there's really anything that would change about it. Replayed Xenoblade Chronicles, and man, this used to be my favorite game of all time, and I still love it. I still adore this video game. It's so important to me because 10 years ago, this is the game that kind of introduced me to JRPGs and video game stories as a whole. I'm very happy to say that 4 years after last playing it, this game is still amazing. I think Xenoblade 1 has some of my favorite individual characters. I think my favorite cast of characters in the Xenoblade game is 3, but it has some of my favorite individual characters, individual character moments, the story, being a story, turning from a story about revenge to a story about the world. It's great. It's a great game that I cannot recommend enough. People rag on it for its combat. I've never found the combat that bad, in my opinion. I've always really enjoyed playing this game. And so, if you can get past the combat, which, like I said, I don't find as big of an issue as everybody else does. If you get past the combat, you are in for a game that is starting to look at massive worlds, great story, great characters, and a game that kind of changed my life, I guess. Cyberpunk. Once again, this is another replay. Most of the top five, 3 games out of the top 5 are replays for sure. Cyberpunk 2077 uh, is great. The turnaround that this game had is crazy. I think the story is done well. It's emotional. It's mind blowing at times. It's cool. The exploring Night City is and will always be extremely fun. There's so many things to do, so many things to see. Even going outside of Night City, there's a lot of variety of things to do. The quests and the quest lines are all, for the most part, really good. And then you add on Phantom Liberty, which I didn't get to replay this year, but I have played it before. Phantom Liberty just takes that and adds on, makes it so much better. Plus, there's new features now with all the updates. New features that I had to experience because the last time I played this game would have been 2022. The last time well, at least the last time I played the original main game was 2022. And so, Cyberpunk 2077, just, I thank God for Edge Runners just because I wouldn't have been able to experience this game, and I cannot wait to revisit it again. Yes, Expedition 33. This game, I've mentioned it. I've talked about it at length already, just like a variety of other games on this list. And so to keep things short, turn-based combat is great. I love turn-based combat. The story hit me on a very uncomfortable level, but a level that I love just because I see myself in Mael as a character a lot. Dealing with grief is something that I think that this game tackles really well. Just the idea of grief and ways to deal with it. It's a beautiful looking game. The music is amazing. People that use this game to trash JRPGs suck, and people at JRPG elitists that trash on this game just because it's not, just because it got popular, because it's not what they want, or it's not because what they want, or because people they've let diehard bad fans. Not all diehard fans of this game are bad, but a lot of a very loud, not large, but loud minority are assholes about this game. Both of y'all suck is what I'm saying. The people that use it to hate on JRPGs and the people that are elitists that hate on this game for no reason whatsoever. Anyways, moving on. I love this game. So yeah. Top 3. I finally got to play RE4 this year. It's the first time I touched a horror game. I've completed a horror game. Thanks to RE9 as well as Weapons, I decided to, and I guess kind of Sinners, even though I wouldn't consider that a horror game. A horror movie. I decided to dive into horror as a genre this year, try to get over my fears and experience these stories that I haven't experienced, that I would never have experienced otherwise. And RE4 was kind of the big stepping point. It was like the first thing that I did when it came to horror. And so I played it, and I loved it. I think that game is also near perfect. Like I said, I haven't played the original RE4, and I think I probably would also enjoy that game just as much as this one. But just from what I have played, Resident Evil 4 is phenomenal. I cannot wait to get into the rest of or at least tackle as many of these games as I can before RE9 comes out. At the very least, I'm gonna try and start RE7 tomorrow, New Year's Day, so I can experience this for myself. Leon, Ashley as a character, just phenomenal characters. The world, the level design, the enemies, as terrifying as the generators are, the puzzles. I'm not a big puzzle person, but this one didn't make me too upset, all things considered. I loved it. I love RE4, and this is another one of those games that the moment I beat it and the moment I stopped playing, I immediately wanted to replay it. This is the second year in a row that Trails of Cold Steel has made the top 2. It has been number 2 last year as well. I love Cold Steel 3. I've talked about this game a lot over the past 2 years or so. Cold Steel 3 is my favorite Trails game. I love the characters, I love the cast, I love the story, I love exploring different parts of Ereboni. I love how it weaves into the rest of the Trails franchise, the rest of the saga. There's not much that needs to be said about Cold Steel 3 for me because I've talked about it a whole bunch. I adore this game. I replay it every year before college, just to get my nerves and stress down, my stress levels down, and I fall in love with it all over again. Number one, finally made it to the end of this list. It's taken me all day to record this. I kept to keep taking breaks because my throat was going to kill me if I didn't. Number one is Final Fantasy VI, which I think I definitely re-reviewed at some point. Final Fantasy VI, in my personal opinion, is the greatest video game ever created. I don't at this point in time, I don't think there's anything that's going to beat it. I love the characters, the story, the world, the twists, the turns, the music. Everything about this game is perfect. If there's like the tiniest little bit of a nitpick, it's the fact that some of the characters, big cast of 14, some of those characters aren't as well developed or developed at all compared to other characters. But even then, that isn't enough to detract me from my love for this game. I played it for the first time in 2022 when I think I got COVID and I was stuck in the house for like a week or two. And I played Final Fantasy VI for the first time because that's when the Pixel remasters came out, and I absolutely adored it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, this game was good back then. Game was good now. I love Final Fantasy VI. It's my favorite game of all time, and I can't wait to get around to it in like 3 years, in another 3 years or so, because that's probably what's going to end up being. That is it for my top 50, or ranking every game that I played this year. This was a long endeavor. It's an endeavor that I enjoyed, and hopefully I don't reach 52 games next year. That'd be nice. I don't want to make a long video like this again. That'd be great. But yeah, thank you for watching this long video. I don't know if it's reached an hour or not, but it's done something. So yeah, thank you for watching. See ya. Bye.